Alrighty, we are recording. So hello, Walnut. Hello, Rose. Welcome to the Walnut Tree. This is a live recording in the group. So as you are here, say hello when you are. We have a Lulu. Hi, Lulu. We have a Nicole. We have a Kez. And the guest of honor, we have a Rose. Pen name, Elliott Rose. Welcome, my beautiful favorite person on this whole entire earth.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
It is so fun. So, Walnut, this is a secret launch party. It was sort of just like happened organical. For Rose's first, are you counting it as first fiction?
First fiction, yeah.
First fiction publication under Elliott Rose, Sweet Inferno, which is book one. Of the Nocturnal Heart series. So Rose, I'm going to refer to you as Rose. Is that all right? I feel like...
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, pen name, is it like a pronoun? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I know, I'm still figuring this out myself.
Okay. I'm going to go for Rose because I know you as Rose, but Walnut, Elliott Rose is the place that you want to be following for all the Nocturnal Heart's delicious goodness. So Rose, I'll just get you to introduce yourself for the Walnuts who don't know who you are, even though I brag about you basically every day, but please introduce yourself to us.
I'll just have a sip of my cacao to wet my throat. So hello, everyone. If you don't know me already, I'm Rose, and you can catch me over at Elliott Rose Author on all the places. And this is essentially the celebration and secret launch party that you get the exclusive access to around launching Sweet Inferno, which is book one in my Nocturnal Heart series. And this is a paranormal romance series. You could call it romantasy even if you really want to, because we're set, these books are set in kind of a near earth style realm, but we travel between realms and across different worlds, and there's a lot of movement in a very paranormal, supernatural, magical sense. We've got witches, we've got shifter wolves, we've got vampires, we've got, in Sweet Inferno, we also get the kind of hint of other beings such as the Fae who are around and kind of about. But in Sweet Inferno, we have our two main characters that the story is centered on, being Leah, who is a fire witch, and Fern, who is a shifter wolf. So we get kind of the primary focus being on witches and the shifter wolf kind of supernatural beings that are in this world. But there are hints, and it's a great introduction to the rest of the world and the ongoing series that is to come. So it's very mystical, magical, exciting, and of course there is lots of spice to go with a romance of this nature, a paranormal romance.
Like right away too, it's like, okay, where is my wet towel? Well, not wet towel, cold flannel.
Like, find my fan.
Wet towel.
Find my fan.
Oh my gosh, funny. Okay, so Nicoletti says she's so excited, and Karen does lots of celebration emoji. What are those things called? I don't know, but we've got a lot of excitement in the Walnut Tree. So yay, welcome. So Walnut, I posted a Q&A thread inside the group. So Rose, would you prefer if I just start off with a few questions, or?
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
because obviously, as an author myself, before I became one, I was always so curious what it would feel like and all the things. And I know that we've talked on both of our podcasts about the journey through authorship and things like that. But I feel like the fiction world is a whole different fishbowl of its own. So I'll start with everyone else's questions, and then I'll probably add to some myself because I'm a dork and I need the goss. So Nicole asked, first of all, who did you base Fern off?
Fern, our delicious Fern. I actually had to laugh because one of the first reviews that came in was basically just Fern is now added to my harem of book boyfriends.
We love Fern. We love.
So #Fern for life. Fern is actually the major inspiration for his character came from a visual. And so some of my characters come to me in kind of just they kind of drop in, and I can see them, and I then have to go find an image that kind of represents what I can see in my mind's eye. In this case, it was one that has come to me from an image, and then the character was kind of there, but that informed a lot of, I guess, the characteristics and mannerisms and things. So he's very much based on probably the best way I can describe it is Jason Momoa, but Hawaii-based Jason Momoa, not the Jason Momoa you see in like Hollywood in movies or whatever. It's like if you see him on his like Instagram when he's like up in the mountains, like full gone bush, gone wild mode. That's what we are looking at if you want to have a visual for Fern here.
Very nice. Very nice. And I think also Walnut, knowing that before you read Sweet Inferno, it's very, very nice as well. That's a nice segue into another question that one of the Walnuts has asked, which was, Rose, as like a historical human, not historical, it's in your life all the time now, but in the world of human design, there was a question, do you know the human designs of your characters?
Human designs of my characters? Yeah. Yes. And so in this case, for me, both Leah and Fern are generator energy types. They've got that kind of sexy magnetism around them, that kind of like instant attraction-y vibe. For me, Leah is very much kind of, I think she's got the curiosity, she's got the want to kind of like go and find things out. So I feel like, but she's also got the kind of, I'm going to try and do what I can, around helping and things like that. I don't want to give away any spoilers in this. So for me, I feel the 5-1 vibes with Leah.
Am I Leah? I'm Leah. That's me.
And both sacral authorities, like they're not particularly like emotionally up and down people, either of them. Fern, I feel, again, sacral generator, but I do feel he's got the kind of 6-2 vibe going on. Like he's very comfortable on his own. He's very, like he's done 300 years of kind of like being the wolfy shifter wolf, happy to do his own thing, very independent, but also, very, very much the kind of wise head, which is also what's quite fun because Leah kind of scrambles that up for him a little bit. So again, no spoilers.
I'm like, how do I even conduct the rest of this conversation? Okay, very exciting, very delicious. Okay, and Karen has shared the Elliott Rose website. Walnut, if you are listening now and you want the link, you can click that and have a look at purchasing your own very copy. It's on ebook and what physical paperback. Thank you, paperback. Yeah. And Nicole's swooning over Fern, and Kez loves the HD goss on Leanne Fern. Delish. Okay, let me just scroll back to the other questions. I like this one since I already have the answer for my own self, but from the author's mouth, do you identify with any of the characters from this book or the coming ones?
I think this is such an interesting point for a lot of authors, right? Because I think we infuse a lot of ourselves into every character we write a lot of the time. And I think for Leah, there is elements of me in there. And I can also see elements of myself in Fern as well. So it's interesting how we kind of take our own little bits and pieces and like weave them in terms of like how we would respond to something or how we see the world. And while it's not a whole picture of us, we get the little kind of threads that just are like little homages to bits and pieces and different experiences we've had. And yeah, definitely for future characters as well, there's always going to be elements in there. And I think if anything, one of the things that I've been really drawn towards with the female characters in this series is that the part of me that probably comes through a lot is in terms of their physical stature and representation. And in Leah's case, she's short, she's curvy, she's voluptuous, and she's also a badass. And that's one of the things that with my female main characters, I've been very passionate about bringing that side of things through, around that we can have plus size, curvy, magical witches who are amazing at what they do, and their size does not determine anything in terms of their capability as magical beings. And also making a point of their size not being like something that needs to be discussed. Because I think in a lot of books, there is rhetoric, either like inner monologue from the character around like their debate about their body. And, there might be a beautiful story about how their love interest in the book likes them exactly as they are or whatever. But, I was really determined to make this something that there's no, we don't need to have a conversation about it. It's as simple as saying like, oh, she's got dark hair and curves, and, like we don't need to discuss the inner monologue or like self-doubt that comes with that, because it's like, there is no need for that essentially in this world.
Yeah. I love that. And I actually feel when I first met Leah, I was like, yes, I know, and I resonate, and I already understand just from being myself, from being like a not twig woman. I understand. It was just like full stop, enough said. Good, and that's how she was forever in my brain. So I think you have actually articulated that in the book really well. So I'm looking forward to getting to know all the other lovely, delicious ladies in the rest of the spicy series. So thank you for answering your question so elegantly and deliciously as well, Rose, as I continue on.
I try.
How did you write these books? Okay, so let's hang on. I will just skip that one because there are a couple of like techno-esque ones in here.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just stick to the funness of the characters first. But I like this question that Nicole asked. What surprised you most about creating this series, about yourself or about the books?
Ooh, that is a good question. Thank you, Nicole. What surprised me the most? I think the hilarious part is that I've kind of got my own inner competition with myself as a writer, that each book is going to try and outdo the previous one for the spice and the quality of the spice is going to be in there.
It's like how
it's kind of like a secret competition with myself for how things can keep building book by book.
I love it.
So watch out. By the time we get to like book 7, like
oh my Lord. We'll just be sliding around everywhere. I love that. Thank you. Just on the chats about Leah and her body, Karen says, yes, Leah doesn't have the body image baggage that we have in our world. She just is the body she is. And Nicole says, I love that about Leah. She is so powerful. And she is. She's so delicious. So awesome. And then we have lots of squishy emojis and holy shit, and basically just people excited for the spice that's to come in their lives. All right, so before we finish up on the questions, I'll just have a couple more here. And if you're live too, Walnut, make sure post them as if anything comes up for you as well, because I'm seeing them on my screen too. So I don't want you to miss out on asking Rose any nosy questions if you've got any.
What I'm here for.
So here for it. Another question is, how did you write these books? Did you have a skeleton plan for the entire series so you know what's going to happen, or did they just fall out of you one by one, or a little bit of both? And before you answer this, Rose, I feel like this is on another one of your podcast episodes, isn't it? Or you've spoken about it coming up that I might have to link it in the group somewhere or something like that.
Yes.
But
So I was just recently on Kieran's podcast, Birthing Your Book, and I think that comes out either today or tomorrow as well. And we talk a little bit about that in terms of from the editing perspective and things like that, like how my writing kind of how that came about in terms of this book and how this book came in a way that I wasn't quite anticipating. So just to give the brief recap of it,
today,
essentially I was writing what is now book 2 in the series that's coming out 6th of March 2023. Circle the date in your calendars. Ooh. Beautiful people. And I was busy writing that book, and this Sweet Inferno novella just like barreled in and was like, oh, by the way, we're here. Here's your characters. Here's your storyline. Here's your plot. Here's everything. Here's the introduction to this whole world and series and everything. And it all just like tumbled out pretty much fully formed in the space of 2 weeks. So it was like this power writing moment of having to put what is now book 2 down. Focus on this. And and then we just kind of like rolled from there. So there was a period of time when I was still kind of writing both simultaneously, which was quite fun. But yeah, it's all good because it was such a fun whirlwind experience for that to all kind of come and just transpire and come through. But in terms of the bigger series and the books in general, yes, there is a planning kind of energy around certainly the first probably 6 at this stage in terms of the characters, in terms of their story arcs, in terms of their relationships, in terms of kind of the, I guess like the key themes or like tropes that are going to be in those books. So there is that kind of skeleton structure, and they've all got kind of their own visual inspirations to go with that kind of keep me not keep me tethered to the story, but it's like it keeps working away in the background, which is quite fun. So it's like I'll have moments when, you know, I'm busy working away on the book 2 that's coming out, and I'll suddenly get something drop in book 3 or book 4 or book 5. And so I've got like a document that's like a working place where those things get dropped. So I'll be kind of like on my phone at whatever, you know, as this idea is dropping in, putting it into my phone. And then it gets added to like the Google Doc where that's all housed and kept to keep it in order. So my brain doesn't have to keep remembering things. Also songs as well. That's another thing that if I hear a song that I think is going to be really kind of the mood or vibe of that book from what it feels like for me at the moment, that's getting added in places too, which is quite fun.
I love that. And there is a Sweet Inferno playlist on Spotify, Walnut, which I will link.
Yes.
Either in this chat or in the group anyway for you to have a little listen to for when you have your hands on your copy. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, Rose. It's also like such a the word is not in my mouth at the moment, but it's you've always been someone who is just very linked to their intuition, and the way that you allow the books to come in instead of like really honing in on the structure and like, no, I'm doing this book at the moment, so go away. You're really like, I don't know, that's just a real testament to how you actually are as an author, as a book churner, like just like going, okay, you're
testament
here.
To the state of my brain.
yeah So I think
I saw a great meme on Instagram that was something like, oh, so you know, you're a fantasy author or something, like how do you keep all these like storylines and characters and world building and whatever in your head, how do you kind of navigate it? And then like the reply was something like, well it's quite simple. Who are you? What day is it? Like, where am I supposed to be going? Do I have any groceries in the fridge? I haven't left the house in weeks. Like, it was like all the normal like human functionality is not here. It's like taken up by this like crazy chaotic world of characters.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to shine a little light on your like authorship, because you just like nail it so amazingly, and you don't look like that you don't have your shit together. You look fantastic.
Thank you. It's all a magical illusion. I've cast a glamour spell.
I love it. It's working. It's working for us. And Papa Walnut asks, again, another technical question. What are the benefits of printing versus just publishing online? He makes note of like the fact that it is costly to produce books, and a word that I don't know how to pronounce, which is in the thread. And then he said, is it worth it aside from having the tangible object in your hand? So I was just wondering if you could speak to that slight difference. I know you do both.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a really good question, because it is something that as an indie author or a self-published author, it's something you really have to consider, because you are essentially wearing the upfront cost of everything to do with your book. So everything from the software that you are producing your book on, like formatting your book on, through to the cover art, through to the editing, proofing, there's all of these technical things that come in before the book even goes anywhere beyond just your computer. And so I personally use, and you were the beautiful recommendation for me for this, to use Ingram Spark as the publisher and distributor, essentially. So they operate a print on demand model, which I personally, that really aligns for me because of not only the sort of ethics around book printing and publication, that for me, I would much rather know that there's not hundreds of thousands of copies of books getting printed that are essentially going out to all these bookstores around the world and then potentially not getting sold or getting returned. Or, I've had experience in the book selling industry, like working in a physical bookstore, and basically that to me really opened my eyes to how wasteful the book industry is as a whole, because we were constantly receiving printed books that were not selling, and we were having to go around and like pull them all off the shelves and box them back up and send them back to the distributor, where they were basically just getting pulped down. And I kept the whole time, like my little eco greeny heart was going, this is so wasteful.
Yeah.
We're printing books and then we're just pulping them, and then we're printing books and we're pulping them. So for me, print on demand really felt good and felt like a good fit for my books. So what that means is that basically when an order is placed online for a physical book copy, that gets printed and then shipped out. So sometimes in advance of, say, like a book being released, they might start printing ahead of time if they know there are orders there, just so they can get delivered, within a reasonable time frame. But yes, absolutely. The cost of that process is something you really have to factor in within your pricing of, so when we talk about a physical book in our hands being, say, $20, $30, $40, $50, whatever the case may be, an author typically only sees a very, very, very small fraction of that cost to buy the book. The lion's share of that goes to cover the cost of the print and distribution, essentially. So I think in this case, the most recent with Sweet Inferno, I think just off the top of my head, it was something like, it was over $15. It was somewhere between $15 and $16 of the actual book price is to cover those costs. And then there are things taken off on top of that for other kind of administration and things. So I think on average, like from what I kind of understand, is that per book sold, it's very common for an author to get somewhere between like $2 and $3 a book, which is just one of those things that is kind of across the board for everyone. Like, no matter whether you are New York Times best USA Today best-selling author, whatever the case may be, like there's kind of just those practicalities around the print version. But it is, I think, for so many people, that process of reading a physical book is all part of the magic of books and having it on your shelf and the tangible aspect. And it's a very different experience reading a physical book to reading an ebook. I personally read a lot of ebooks, and I definitely notice the difference. If I then change and I have a physical copy to read, it changes my entire pace of reading almost. I don't know if you've experienced that, Les.
Yeah, definitely. I struggle actually to read electronically. It doesn't give me the satisfaction of like a book. I feel like there's so many sensory emotions that come along with reading tangibly. Like, not only are you physically like touching one side of the book getting bigger and smaller, it's the smell of a new book and where you are when you're holding it. I don't know, it just feels so different than reading it electronically. But yeah, a friend of mine, total bookworm, she actually switched to Kindle, not because she prefers it, but because she just has no space for any more books.
Yeah.
Like, so
that is the other consideration.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I am a physical, tangible holding in hand book person, if out of preference, for sure. Yeah.
So it's a very interesting, I think, dynamic for people to kind of figure out what they prefer. I think for me, again, it's like the space and the cost of, the shipping, things like that. Whereas I'm impatient. If I want to read, I want to be able to read right now. So for me personally, I really love the accessibility of ebooks, for the fact that I can, be in the mood to read something, go to a place of someone I know who recommends books that I typically really love, and within about 5 minutes I've got it and I'm reading it, on my Kindle app.
Yeah. Yeah.
The projector efficiency in that feels very delicious.
Yeah, totally. And that makes sense. So thank you for catering to us of all book reader alike. Before we wrap this call up, Rose, I actually have a couple of burning questions that I really wanted to specifically ask.
Yes.
Some of the comments in the live chat are agreeing with the smell of books, tangible books on that conversation. Oh, and Claire's here. Hello, Claire. You're not late. You're fine. Don't worry. The minimalist in me wants to read e-readers, but I love holding the book. Karen is so excited to get her physical copy of Sweet Inferno. I usually read romance genre on my Kindle because I read them so fast, and the physical space factor. Yeah, that makes sense. And then agreement with the immediate gratification in your projector efficiency. And the immediacy with, especially being in New Zealand, with the shipping and how long, especially post-COVID, how long it takes. So thank you for your comments. My question, Rose, was, I got two and I don't know which one I want to ask first. I think I'll ask this one. Obviously, and to relate everything back to being a walnut and having that courage, and to release a book, regardless of fiction or nonfiction, is a very vulnerable space, and I can speak to experience. But I feel like fiction, your own special imaginary place, feels so much more scarciting to me than any like spilling of my soul that is nonfiction. Can you please talk to how did you feel like you had to be a walnut when this idea came to you and when you were thinking of bringing the series to life?
Yes, and I totally know what you mean, that it is publishing something in the nonfiction world can be very personal, right? It can be those personal stories, and it can be that very kind of soul searching type conversations that you're having, and vulnerable shares that you're putting something out that is, you maybe haven't talked to many people about, or you haven't ever said out loud before. In fiction, you're kind of taking that same thing, but you are creating a whole world or a whole character or a whole, kind of conversation and storyline that, to me, it has got that same degree of vulnerability, because there is always that thing of, are people going to get it? Are people going to like it? Are people going to even understand what's going on the page?
Yeah.
Especially when we get into like fantasy and, things that are not necessarily grounded in our everyday reality. They're not the contemporary world we live in. And, you know, paranormal romance obviously has got that added layer of you've got characters that you are trying to ensure they are still relatable and still, you can still connect to them, but they are inherently completely different to your average Joe human being.
Yeah.
Yes, and so there is that real the walnutting came from trusting that my voice and my way of sharing these stories is unique to me, and also not necessarily putting judgment on myself to expect my very first book to be the best, right? You know, I am the first person to say that I know my writing is only going to keep getting better and better and better and better with each book I put out. So I kind of just took any pressure off myself to go, this needs to be the absolute bastion of perfectionism, because of the fact that I knew the story needed to come out and it needed to be shared, and it was like ready to go right now. And I think that's also the beauty of self-publishing and being an indie author, is that you can make that decision on at what point is it ready, and giving yourself that permission to go, I am going to continue to strengthen in what I'm doing. And there was something else I was going to say to that around, what was my other point that I wanted to speak to? I think it was essentially around the kind of, you know, confidence to do the thing and to trust your own voice with it. Because very much I was aware that I love reading paranormal romance. I love reading that supernatural genre, but I needed to almost like not read it while I was writing. So I kind of have these like detoxes from that genre, because I don't want my voice to be taking on board the way that other people are describing things, the way that other people are, you know, putting their characters onto the page, the worlds that they're like, and allow myself to develop my own voice was something that was quite a big walnutting along the way, was trusting that my voice is okay and good enough, and my own unique way of describing things, and kind of just to put my blinkers on.
Yeah, I had to do a little bit of that when writing my nonfiction book as well, in regards to like even just launching and stuff. I had a friend who was releasing her book at the same time, and hers was very Instagrammable and very like, you know, for the social medias and things, and mine was just not. Mine was just mine, you know. So like I understand about the blinkers thing, and that like is so relevant to just real life as well when you're doing your thing, and to just remember to stay in your lane. So thank you for your courage and for making this masterpiece. And also like how you were saying, I know that my book doesn't need to be the best or whatever. I think it is. It's my first ever reading of a Spicicle romance novella that I'm like blown away. I think it's amazing. I think it's like fire but deliciousness.
And I think that's the author's journey as well, right? Is that we can always see room for improvement, and we have to know the point when, you know, my partner's an artist as well, so we often have these conversations around like, at what point is something done? Because I look at the art that he creates and I'll be sitting there going like, oh, that's amazing, like, you know, so like, are you happy with it? And he's like, oh god, no, it's got like, you know, this and this and this is wrong and this is wrong and this needs fixed. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, we could just put it on the wall right now. You know? So I very much have to turn that around often for myself and go like, okay, am I just being super critical on myself here? And, you know, that yes, my perfectionist can go and like sit over there.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to that like intuition about it as well, right? You know, in your body or in your like all your physical, spiritual, emotional bodies, that what's correct at the time and things like that, which you're like deliciously in tune with. Comments are, the stories are so good, capital letters. It's incredible. Can't wait for more. I haven't read any other paranormal romance while involved with Nocturnal Hearts. That's amazing. That was from Karen.
We're exclusively dating.
Yeah, exclusive.
We're fated mates.
Yeah. Nicole says that's awesome. I think you can all take that advice to block out outside sources to create from our own magic. Thank you for being brave. You're incredible. It really is so good. Nicolici is blown away. I do read paranormal romance, and this is like times 10, and then all the squelchy delicious emojis. More epic advice for us all in creating anything. Leave the perfectionism at the door. You're delicious. You're delicious, nutritious, Rose. My other question, and I've already alluded to that I'm not a romantical kind of like reader that much, but I just want to, this is not really a question. This is just more like a celebration of you, because one thing that I used to talk about with a friend of mine a lot is like binge watching the Vampire Diaries and all the things, and like even Harry Potter and Twilight, things like that. Why the fuck are they always high school students? Like, I am 30 plus now, and I'm the one who needs the escapism from the adult world, from the 9 to 5, from just the dramas of needing to do washing. Like, when you're in high school, you people cover that for you. You know what I mean? Like, why do you get the spicy love interest, like old vampire stalking you that's 500 years old? Like, I want that. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's very funny, because I think I've seen a lot of conversation lately just within that kind of paranormal romance sort of reader community, that I think what used to be kind of the and I don't know, like, whether this is just kind of a hangover from your kind of historical romance type genres, where quite often the main character particularly was very young, very virginal, very, kind of like had never experienced life. And then, in the paranormal romance genre, you've got these like 5,000-year-old vampires or something coming along and like going, oh yes, a 16-year-old.
Yeah, it's like that old like patriarchy, pedophilic, like
and I think now because there are more ways that, particularly readers can connect online, right? So whereas before we used to read these books sort of in isolation, and unless you had like a bestie who was also reading the book, you didn't really have anyone else that you could necessarily talk to about these things. And now it's like you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people that you can have conversations about the books. And I think it's allowed for more people to kind of have those moments where they're like, just a thought, just a question. And it's allowed the genre to evolve, which I think is also something that I feel kind of grateful to be coming in at this point in time, because it's allowed for a lot of these things, like you say, kind of writing in a way that's got that kind of ability to give our characters some maturity, like they don't have to be 20 years old. We can have that, of course. And I think I think that's a whole thing now in terms of like being called like new adult, in terms of the, going beyond the young adult into the new adult genre of like, kind of 20 something year olds that are still in that kind of post high school sort of age range. But yeah, I think that's to kind of run off the back of the conversation around having women characters that are curvy and, just accept and love their bodies and things like that. The age thing is something also that has kind of not been necessarily something I've intentionally put thought to, but just felt right to me to be writing characters that were, kind of in that older age range, and have got a bit of like lived experience, and we're not going for the virginal female main character either. We've got women who are coming in with a bit of experience,
like we know what we want.
And they might have something to say about the lacking in terms of the partners they have previously had relations with. I think that's like one of Leah's things is she's like, oh, I've had enough of that shit.
Yeah. And I love that. And it definitely like is littered through the pages of that. So yeah, I just wanted to like praise you for helping my escapism, because that's something that I have like discussed for many years, even like mid-20s, been like, why is it always the twiggy blonde high school student, or the like, I don't know, it's just a thing. So I'm glad that you've like done that and unintentionally too, but like with a little bit of thought to it as well. So I just wanted to touch on that. Rose, this has been amazing. I could talk to you forever, and I probably will continue to talk to you forever. But for the Walnuts who are watching Obsessed, they want to connect with your books and with you. Where are the best places for us to point the Walnuts to?
So my website has all the links if you just want to go and kind of see where it's available, because it's basically you can go to any of your favorite online book retailer, whether that is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book Depository, and grab your copy right now. Whether you can get paper or ebook versions are available. And that's actually one of the things that I'm quite passionate about as well. And like, we don't have time to get into all of it in this conversation, but I am very passionate about my books coming out in that kind of ability to be available across a number of different book retailers. Let's just say that a lot of authors choose to go with one behemoth only, Amazon. And that's got its own inherent, obviously, like limitations and things attached to it. And for me, I like to give people the choice of a number of different places should they desire to make their purchases elsewhere. And that, yes, you can absolutely find it on all the things, and it's linked in my bio with Instagram as well, if you just want to come over and follow me on Instagram and get all the links right there.
Delicious, nutritious. And I'll pop those links in the description of this live video for you, Walnut. And if you listen to this on either myself or Rose's podcast, show notes, all the places, but just search Elliott Rose and it should pop up under your nose. Walnut, thank you for your time and for being here. And if you've been here live, thank you for your questions. And if you're on the replay, just hashtag Walnut Wednesday so that I can pop back later and check them out and contact Rose if there's any further questions. And Rose, Elliott Rose, thank you so much for visiting my group, for visiting us, and for the magic and escapism that you're putting out into the world. I will sing your praises from the rooftops till the day I die. You are very talented. You are very amazing. And at the heart of it all, you are just a delicious person. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for being my host of my surprise secret launch party. I feel very privileged. So it's been so much fun.
Delicious. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And I will talk
Thank
to
you for being here.
Bye.